Hello everyone and welcome to Azam Sharp YouTube channel. Now you might be wondering, why are we on the eBay sign up screen? Well, this lecture or this session is about validation, and I want to just show you that how eBay is validating user input on their sign up screen. So here's their sign up screen. If I click on or tap on first name, you can see that I can enter first name, but if I leave first name and go and immediately jumped onto last name without entering anything, then it says please enter your first name. Now I'm on the last name. If I jump to email without entering last name, then it also complains about the last name, and so on. So the question is, well, how can we build something similar in SwiftUI? Let's go back to our code now. And in our code, you can see that I have a login screen. I guess you can say a sign up screen, but I just have a login screen. And we have a body with simply a text. So we don't even have any form or nothing going on. So let's start with the form. Now keep in mind that this is more of a plain vanilla solution, and it will need refactoring on your part to make it reusable in different conditions. And maybe we'll cover that in the future. But right now, we just want to get the work done for a single screen. So here we go. I'm going to add one text box or one text field for the username, one text field for password, and a button for logging in. Now what I want to do is, whenever I perform a blur operation, blur basically means if I leave the text field, so if I'm right now focused on the text field username and I just leave it like on blur, that's a kind of like a JavaScript thing, they call it on blur event, then I should validate something. Now the way that we would do that is many different ways, but the way that I will do that is by creating, since I have two different fields, I can create something called a focus field, which can have different cases like username and the password. And I'll denote it with a focus state. So a focus state is going to maintain the state of the fields that are getting in focus and also kind of like getting out of focus, as you'll see. So we have created the focus field, and now we can assign a different focus field based on the text field that we're using. So we'll give it a certain name. So focus field, so over here we can say focus, and this will be focus field for username. So if we click a button and we set the focus field to username, then this means that the username text box will be in focus. And the same thing we can do for this one, which is a password field. So I'm just going to change this to password. Okay, great. So now this means that whenever I focus, basically I tap on username or password, the focus field gets changed. And we can actually listen to these changes by attaching an onChange event. But there are a lot of different change events over here. There's the one that will fire, equatable initial Boolean and action. But in this case, I actually need to know what was the old value of the, of the focus field and what is the new value. So this particular overload is going to provide me the old value and the new value. Let's go ahead and print out both of these so that you will have an idea of what the old value and the new value contains. So I'm going to pull up this previews. So I'm going to tap on username. And as soon as I tap on the username, you can see that the old value, which is this one, is actually nil. But the new value is username. Now, if I tap on password, then the old value is username because I was in username text field, and the new value is password. All right. So this is how it is working, or it is organizing itself. So what I want to do now is take the old value, which in this case, if it's not nil, then I'll take the old value. So I'll go ahead and say if let old value, and I can actually validate. Now, right now we don't really have any function called validate, so I'm going to go ahead and create that function. Private function validate a field, which is focus field. We can perform a switch on the focus field. If it's username, then I can say if the username is empty, then do something else, do something else. And if password is empty, then do something. If the password is not empty, then, well, do something else. All right. And now we can actually fire the validate function sending in the old value. So validate with the old value. And it's only going to send if the old value is not nil. Now we come to the validate function. Now you can see that I'm checking over here if the username is empty or the password is empty. And even in the last video, I mentioned that you should also check for if it is white space. So that is something that you can build on your own. It's white space or is empty or white space. That's an extension you can write. But I'm just keeping things simple. We're just checking it for empty. Now, if it is empty, the username is empty, then, well, that's a problem, right? I mean, that's an error. And we need a way to process those errors, or we need a way to put those errors somewhere. So one of the places we can do that, one of the things that we can do is we can create error messages as a dictionary where the first key, or the key itself, will be the focus field and the value will be string. And this allows us to associate the focus field, like username or password, with some sort of an error message. So now for the username, if the username is empty, I can go ahead and say username, and I can provide some sort of an error, like username is required. Else, if the username is not empty, then we also need to make sure that we are removing that particular key, so username. Same thing with the password. If the password is empty, then we're just going to go ahead and set it up that the password is required, like that kind of an error message. Password is required. Else, well, we're going to make sure that we remove the password. All right, great. So this seems promising. Now, what if this is an error? I mean, if you are just moving along and you're just jumping from one text field to the other text field without actually writing anything, then what do you want to do? Well, one of the things that we can do is we can create some sort of an overlay. So I'm going to go ahead and say overlay. And in the overlay, I can create a rounded rectangle. Let's go ahead and say corner radius to be, let's say 10, continuous, and stroke. So stroke basically means that what color are we basically trying to do. So if I go ahead and say red, then you can see, you should be able to see like a different stroke. Actually, not style over here, sorry. If I just simply pass in the stroke with red. Okay, so you can see it's kind of like creating that stroke of border around it. All right. Now, we don't really want to create the border all the time. We only want to create the border if the username, if it is nil, then, well, don't create the border. So this means that we are going to use a clear border or a clear color, else we're going to use red. So right now you can see that it is clear. If I tap on username and I move around it, there we go, you can see that it comes out. Now, if I start typing the username, it doesn't go away. So that's another problem that we need to fix later. But at least we got the overlay working. So I can use the same overlay for error messages for the password also. All right. So now if I tap on username, it's fine. If I tap away, it shows me, okay, username is required. I tap away from password, that is also required. Now, another thing that we should probably do is, what about, apart from when you're writing in the username, it should go away. That doesn't really work right now. But since we are working with the overlay, we can also add a different kind of a message, like username is required. You see that? Please enter your email address. Please enter your password. In order to do that, we can wrap all of this stuff in a VStack. I can set the alignment to be leading. And if error message, we can just grab the error message from username and simply display the error message. So whatever the error message is, we can display, but in a smaller font, like a caption. Now if I click on username and I move away, you can see it's saying username is required. And we can use the same exact approach for our password. Just wrap it up. We can say alignment leading, so they are on the left side. And we can actually, right after that, I guess, we can search for the password. Great. Again, I'm going to tap on username, tap on password, and now I'm not entering both of them, so you can see that it is basically telling me both of them are wrong. But if I start typing in the username, it doesn't really do anything. If I start typing in the password, it doesn't do anything. Meaning it doesn't do anything. It should remove this password is required as soon as I start typing. And it's not really doing that. So what can we do? In those cases, we can also attach onChange event, onChange of a user. So in this case, it will be a username. So whenever the username is changing, we can go ahead and fire validate, passing in the username. And we can use the same exact approach whenever the password is changing. So in this case, it will be password. And we can say password. All right. Now I'm going to tap on username. I'm going to tap on password. You can see that it's giving me an error that username is required. I'm going to tap on username and I'm going to go ahead and start typing username. And now you can see it's working. I'm going to tap on the password and I can start typing the password also. For the login part, you can always create an additional property to find out if it is logged in successfully or not, or if the form is valid or not. If the error message is empty, then it is valid. So this means that in your button click, you can say if is valid, then you can actually perform the login request. All right. So this is how you can actually create a similar UI where you're doing live editing, or you're making live changes, and it is telling you live that there's something wrong with the username or something wrong with the password, and then you start typing your username and it goes away, and that's perfectly fine. All right. You can also make sure that this is not automatically capitalizing the first text. I think you have to select a different text capitalization to be like nothing or something, but those things you can easily figure it out. So this is how you can build something very similar to eBay sign-up form, as you can see. And it's a lot of code, as I can definitely understand that. And hopefully in the future, we can actually reduce the amount of code that we have to write by creating some reusable text fields or reusable controls, or even view modifiers that hides most of the complexity behind the scene. So hopefully you have enjoyed this. And if you have, then go ahead and like it, give that a thumbs up, write a comment, share it with other people. And I always recommend that you also check out my website, which is azamsharp.school. I have a lot of courses on iOS development, including my latest course, which is really a fun course where you build a complete e-commerce application along with the payment. I mean, it integrates with Stripe, and it's a SwiftUI application with a custom backend in Express.js with a local, like a Postgres database. So you're learning the complete thing. And this is close to, I think, 15-hour course, and I still have to record some parts of it. So it's going to be probably 16 or 17 hours by the time it's done. But check out some other courses. I have a Superbase for iOS developers course, and the list just goes on and on. This is azamsharp.school, is one of the largest, one of the largest catalogs for iOS development videos, over 160 or 170 hours. There are some free courses also. If you want to just start with a free course, here's a free course on SwiftUI fundamentals. You can also find some other free courses like Swift Data free mini course. All right, so there are some free courses available, but hopefully, you will enjoy the other courses also. Check out the workshops. These are live workshops that you're going to enjoy. So a lot of content is available on Azam Sharp School. Thank you so much. Hope you have enjoyed this video.